I will call to order the Ottawa City Commission meeting for Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. May I have roll call, please?
Mayor Clayton,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Crowley,
Present.
Commissioner Allen is absent, Commissioner Skidmore,
Present.
and Commissioner Van Layden.
Present.
Thank you. We have 4 of our 5, so we have a quorum for today. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by, if Pastor Nathan Mudd is not outside, Commissioner Skidmore. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. And Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this gathering, for each and every person here. We just ask you a special blessing on each one and their respective families where they are. And Lord, as we look over this agenda today, all the items we need to discuss, we do ask for your divine direction and guidance in each decision we make. And Lord, as we continue to work to make this city a better place, we just ask for your special blessing on each of our city employees and bless each of their families as well. We give you thanks for all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. That'll take us to item 6, consent agenda, which consists of minutes from the July 1st, 2026 regular meeting, minutes from the May 13th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting, and agenda approval.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will skip item 7, appointments, proclamations, recognitions, and nominations, as there are none. That'll take us to item 8, public comments.
We have 6 registered, and we'll start with Susan Hughes.
Hi, I'm Susan Hughes. I live at 1201 South Ash. I appreciated last week we had the update from the city manager on what's going on at the data center. And then I was able to read some more of that online or read it again because that was too much to get off of the slide. But it did raise some questions. There were some things I've not even seen mentioned that are a concern to me, are decommissioning. So what happens if this building is abandoned for whatever reason? Maybe after the tax abatement is over or whatever, the bubble burst, what happens with that building and all the hazardous things it contains? And what about fire? Is there any plan in place for fire suppression, and how do we fight a fire in a building like that? And then who's going to actually operate this? Because my understanding is that Lightfield only builds them and then they sell them to the highest builder. So do we know who's going to actually be running it? Do we have a relationship with them? And other things, I saw some things in the guidelines that I kind of found conflicting. It said that the power generation facility has to be similar to what the city uses. Unless it's changed, the city uses diesel. And Lightfield is saying they're going to use 5 million gallons of water a day, mainly to create steam to run their engines. That doesn't sound similar to me. Maybe it is. I don't really know motors. And also, it says that wastewater cannot be deposited onto the ground or into Rock Creek. That's very good. We don't want it to be there. And if it has to go into the city wastewater treatment and has to be something that can be treated. I kind of wonder about that. Cheyenne just had a big problem where they found a data center had dumped some heavy metal resistant bacterium into their wastewater system. So for 30 days, they can't dump anymore. But what happens if these things get in there and most of these cannot be treated? They cannot be filtered out. So what happens then? Like they use their water, their reused water for their golf course and things to water it. Well, now they can't do that until they figure out some way to handle this heavy metal bacterium that they found in it. And that's not something they usually test for. Do we have adequate testing for what might be released from this plant before it hits our wastewater plant? And also on the water, it says that the city has to provide the water and they will only provide what is prudent and feasible. And it says anyone within the city has to use city water. But then 2 lines down, it talks about if they get water from another source, that's at their own expense. Well, that looks like a conflict. You're saying they have to use the city water, but they can use other water. Lightfield is saying they're going to put a plant in on the grounds to treat the water, and it would be run by city operations. Is that my
Thank you,
time?
Susan. Thank you.
Kathy and Charles Ford.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Bear Ford, and this is my husband, Charles Ford. I, Kathy, was raised in Ottawa, Kansas at 2333 Sag Creek Road. My dad, Robert Bear, and my mom was Betty. They were lifelong farmers. And my brother, Andy, owned Andy's Wrecker here for years. My dad was a milk hauler and a farmer his whole life. My dad's father was named Dean. He also was a lifelong farmer. He taught my dad to farm and haul milk, and Dad collected all of our tractors, and he had one of the originals from the farm he grew up on out by where we live. Farming was where I was raised. My dad loved collecting tractors, crop farming, hauling milk, raising dairy cows, milking, raising livestock. Dad never knew a stranger. He talked to anybody about anything. So the point of this is, if we continue to let modern industry take over our family farms, they will be gone too. Who will grow crops and raise animals for food? Have you guys thought about that? Are you willing to eat plant-based made food that isn't even real food? Farmers do a great job of producing food and livestock for all Americans. Where do you, voting for this, think our food will come from in the future? Have you even thought about it? Do you want to eat plant-made fake food? I know I don't, and we won't. We moved from Olathe to Ottawa on October 25th, 2024, about the time this was being signed in. We wanted to live a peaceful retirement life on a farm. So the farm that we found, the house and the farm, the acres that checked all our boxes within my hometown of Ottawa, Kansas. A proposed data center changes our logistics. All of our neighbors are farmers and cattle ranchers. They need water and electricity to keep their farms going. That is why rural people are against this data center even coming to town. While city folks might see it as an asset bringing more people to town, we see it as a threat to our way of life, our income, and our livelihood. Farmers work hard for other people for providing food. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathy and Charles.
Polly Steamer?
Polly Steamer, 3332 Rock Creek Road. So I'm up here today. I want to speak on something Paul Rhodes mentioned last week with a follow-up by Eric Crawley. So Paul said he works at Corning Glassworks, and he said that business, although they promise they will never use water when they're not supposed to or use more than they're supposed to, they do, which I think is something maybe not unexpected, because businesses, they have to have, like the data center, if they don't have water 24/7, 365 days a year, they lose money. 15 minutes without water means they don't run, they're losing money. It's not like me, I can go home and maybe not take a shower for one night if we are under drought conditions. These guys need their water no matter what, all the time. So I don't know whether you guys are planning on supplying water through a utility that you will run, or whether Lightfield is planning to get water someplace else and build and run their own facility. But it's a lot of water. Any utility would be 3 times the size of anything Ottawa could ever use. So if somehow something goes wrong with that business, you're left with, if you're supplying it and it's your utility, then you are left with this humongous white elephant that someone has paid a lot of money for the water rights, because they would need additional water rights for the data center. Yet you have to pay every year for that, and you would lose those water rights. It would be a lost asset. So even if you were to supply partial water, say they bought a water right, they would be required from July 1st to September 30th to find an alternate source of water. So Ottawa has theirs through an assurance district. So they buy that separately from their water right. So if you were to even supply that amount of water, just kind of the assurance water for those 3 months, say you were going to provide that to Lightfield, those are the 3 months of the year where it's hot, there's heavy water use by normal people and businesses. That's when it's most likely to be a drought, a prolonged drought. Those are our driest times of the year. And if there is a drought during, say, the 20 to 30 years, hopefully this data center would run, because if it kind of, am I already out of time? Oh, I'm so sad.
Thank you, Polly.
Anyway, there's a handout to you. It talks about water appropriation rights. It speaks about, in this 4th page, the July 1st to September 30th that I'm talking about. And this is a YouTube video, which you can go to. Corpus Christi came within 18 days. My sister, who lives in San Antonio, told me, of running out of water. Businesses,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael Lewis.
Thank you, mayors, commissioners, everybody in attendance, those watching. This is in no way an endorsement of the data center. I just want to make sure that the city and the taxpayers are protected should this project move forward. Today, I'd like to address the revenue projections and explain why I believe they deserve a closer look. There were 2 key lines in Director Landis' presentation on the potential tax benefits. Quote, "We used information that we have today to calculate values for all these taxing entities, and this information will change year over year as each one of these entities have the ability to change their mill rates," end quote. Also, quote, "These are based on today's numbers. Again, those mill rates and those valuations, all of those things change annually for all of us, for every taxing entity that's listed here," end quote. First of all, I'd like to make clear that the slides shown last week that estimated tax collection were cumulative and not annual. Second, the proposal gives the appearance of being more generous than it actually is. To reach a revenue neutral rate, when you have or add on more value in assessed valuations, in this case, a data center, the mill rate goes down to bring in the same overall revenue, which means in order to bring in the full estimate, you would actually have to raise taxes on your existing base. Otherwise, you'll be collecting less than estimated. In the first decade, for the estimated $1 million to the city annually to happen, property tax rates would effectively have to go up 15%. If they stayed revenue neutral, they would be paying roughly $130,000 less than estimated. Likewise, in the 10 to 20 year time frame of the $5.2 million figure that was presented, the actual figure would be $2.9 million, or over $2 million less than the estimate if we were miraculously to hold revenue neutral through that time period. Otherwise, the current base would be paying 75% higher property tax rates to accommodate that figure. Aside from those realities, an even bigger potential loss for the city and its citizens is the realization that these companies aim to make the most profit as possible. and that includes fighting valuation assessments and classifications, claiming depreciation or obsolescence on equipment, and arguing that they should only be taxed on real land value. It's a fight we don't want. If this project moves forward, I would urge this body to establish some sort of payment in lieu of taxes or a revenue floor to have an agreement that regardless of future valuation appeals, depreciation, or tax law changes, the company will contribute no less than agreed upon minimum dollar amount over a defined period. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Scott Yergin.
I'm Scott Yergin. I live at 3332 Rock Creek Road. I have a handout. Thank you. I want to thank the commission for allowing residents week after week to continue to speak about Lightfield and Proximity Park. I think the comments over the last 6 or 7 weeks have been from moderate to withering for you guys. And so it can't have been pleasant for you, and I am expressing my appreciation of your continuing to have this open comment period, and particularly for Lightfield, Proximity Park. The Kansas Water Office in 2025 published a municipal water report for the years 2019 to 2023. Ottawa's water use during those years went up 41.5%. I think from 82 gallons per year to 116 gallons. 82 gallons per capita per day to 116 gallons per capita per day. That, doing the math on that with Ottawa's population in 2023 at 12,686 people, then we get a 1,648 acre feet per year of water for the city of Ottawa. Covers all the residents' needs. Ottawa supplies water to Rural Water District 1, 2, and 4. Add the 2023 water use for those 3 water districts, and we got a 2004 or 2005 acre feet of water satisfies those 3 water districts' needs and the city of Ottawa. Ottawa has, due to the wisdom of the city commissioners in the past, has a nice, is that my time?
That is.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So you've got my handout, and I think my idea is that the city of Ottawa just does not have the water rights to satisfy Lightfield's needs, and it's a bad fit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Faith, and is it Cooks? Coons, okay.
Hi, my name is Faith Coons, and I'm serving as the secretary of the 2026-2027 Central Heights FFA officer team. As an FFA officer, my responsibility is to serve my community and advocate for agriculture. Today, this is my way of serving, not only for my community, but also the families and future generations who call this area home. Proposed data centers can use several million gallons of water every day. That is water our farmers may need for crops, our ranchers need for livestock, and our communities rely on, especially during the droughts that are common in Kansas. Water is one of our most precious resources, and once it's gone, we can't simply replace it. I also work as a certified nursing assistant in 2 nursing homes, where I have the privilege of taking care of others every day. Today, I chose to be here because serving my community means protecting the health and future of everyone who lives here. My dream is to become a doctor someday, and that starts with speaking up for the well-being of my community now. The concerns that many of us have about these data centers go beyond water. We are worried about protecting our farmland, preserving the natural beauty of our community, and protecting the wildlife that depends on these habitats. These are things that we cannot easily restore once they are lost. Most importantly, I believe that we have the responsibility to care for the land God has entrusted to us. Isaiah 5:8 says, "Woe to those who join house to house, who add field to field until there is no more room, and you are made to dwell alone in the midst of the land." That verse reminds us that growth without wisdom can come at a great cost. Technology will continue to advance, and I understand that we can't stop that. But we can choose to grow responsibly. We can choose to protect the resources that sustain life instead of sacrificing them for projects that may not benefit our community. I respectfully ask you to put the people of Ottawa and Franklin County first. Please protect our water, our farmland, our wildlife, and our future by saying no to these proposed data centers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you all. That'll take us to item 9, declaration. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they have received that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Hearing none, that'll take us to item 11, new business. Item 11A, consider authorization for low to moderate income survey agreement. Consider authorizing city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute an agreement with Governmental Assistance Services, GAS, to complete a low to moderate income survey for future community development block grant eligibility considerations. And we have City Clerk Sherman. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I do want to state that we have Garrett Nordstrom from Governmental Assistance Services here in case we have any questions that I can't answer or you have any questions for him. Staff is recommending that the City Commission authorize the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate and execute an agreement with GAS to complete a low to moderate income survey. The city is currently evaluating CDBG opportunities. Certain CDBG opportunity or applications require the documentation that we have at least a 51% of the beneficiaries meet the LMI requirement. Ottawa's LMI currently is 46%, so we fall under that threshold of being able to apply for a CDBG grant. When existing census data doesn't establish eligibility, as in Ottawa's case, an approved LMI survey may be used to document eligibility. So what this survey would accomplish, it would provide updated eligibility information for future CDBG considerations. It would determine whether Ottawa can document the required 51% LMI threshold. If the threshold is documented, the city would be able to submit up to 3 CDBG grant applications through 2030. And any future CDBG applications would still be brought back to the City Commission for separate consideration and approval. Proposed scope of work for GIS, they would seek the formal permission for the CDBG survey to proceed. They would prepare the survey form and the address list needed. They would tabulate the survey results and prepare the methodology, documentation, including any variance explanation needed. And they would submit those CDBG results for verification and attain final approval for the application use. Financial considerations, this proposal would be a fixed fee for $31,000, which could be used at our capital improvement fund. For legal considerations, the city attorney would review the agreement prior to execution, and this would authorize the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute the final agreement with GAS. And with that, I would stand for any questions you may have.
Melissa, I got a quick question. On the 46%, do we know how long ago that was determined?
So it's with the census data that's released. So that would have been
24.
Yeah, 24.
24, okay. And maybe Mr., is it Nordstrom? Is he here? Did you say?
Absolutely.
I just had, is he here and here?
I think he might have stepped out of the room, Commissioner.
Okay.
Try to answer the question for you. Or
Okay. If he, well, I guess my question on this is he coming up? Is he here?
I don't see him coming.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess my question is, I know the school district several years ago. There he is? Hi. Hi. I just have a,
I'm Garrett Nordstrom with Governmental Assistance Services.
okay. I guess my question is, rather than to duplicate the work our school district did to determine that over 50% are low to moderate income, therefore they're eligible for reduced or free lunches, can we use their survey, or is it something completely separate from
So
this?
this would be completely separate. The methodology that we would initiate would be one given from us from the State Department of Commerce. And what they're going to do is run a random sample of every address in the city, not just specifically those who are attending school.
Okay, I got you. So school has a different one complete. I just didn't want to replicate it if we could save some money, but if we have to do a different one, I understand. That makes sense.
That would be very valuable if the methodology would allow that. But they'll again pick a random sample of every address in the city based upon the addresses that the clerk gives us, and then we'll run that random
Very
sample.
good. Okay, great, thanks.
Melissa, what individuals in town could utilize the CDBG grants?
The city of Ottawa or any entity that might have a project that would fit within the several different CDBG opportunities.
And that could equate to, I mean, I know it's just a random number, but I mean, what could those grants equate to?
I mean, everything from $250,000 to millions of dollars, depending on the project and the opportunity.
And what kind of projects? Just you
Yeah.
know,
Water, sewer, housing, economic development, community buildings. There's several different CDBG grant opportunities.
Do we have any other questions for city clerk or Grant? Garrett, pardon me.
Well, I must say, our Melissa's our expert grant writer, and I think you could write a book on grant writing, but don't publish it too soon before the competition gets out there, so we don't want to do that. But I will make the motion that we authorize city manager, city attorney to negotiate and execute an agreement with governmental services to complete a low to moderate income survey for future community development block grant eligibility consideration.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I do just want to say, I think if you go online and look at CDBG, the things that the funds can be used for, have been used for, the awards given in the state, $31,000 kind of pales in comparison if we are able to cross that threshold. It's a risk worth taking if it opens up the door to potentially, millions of dollars on some of these grants for projects. So with that, may I have roll call, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Layden?
yes.
Commissioner Allen is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
And Mayor Clayton?
I vote yes. Motion passes. Thank you both. That will take us to item 11B, Downtown Master Plan Consultant Presentations. The top 3 ranked firms for the Downtown Master Plan RFP will provide brief presentations for City Commission review and feedback. We will have City Clerk Sherman as well.
Perfect. This item before you, staff's recommendation is to receive presentations from the top 3 ranked Downtown Master Plan RFP firms and provide feedback to staff. As you will recall, we released an RFP on March 18th, 2026, and proposals were due back to the city on May 5th, 2026. The purpose of this project is to create a meaningful, community-supported, and actionable plan to guide downtown improvements. Focus includes the Central Business District, Main Street, with consideration of Hickory Street, Walnut Street, and the multi-use trail corridor along Walnut Street. And our goal is to move from disconnected downtown concepts to one coordinated long-range vision. The city received 18 proposals back from this RFP. Proposals were then reviewed and ranked by city staff, Ottawa Main Street, and Ottawa Chamber of Commerce. The evaluation criteria that we used was project approach and understandability, team expertise and qualifications, public engagement strategy, and schedule and capacity. So with that, if you have any questions for staff, we're here available for those. But we will have our three firms present a brief 5 to 10 minute presentation focused on their approach and strategy and engagement. And you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of each applicant. So we determine the order by a random generator. And so the first one that we have is Bartlett and West. Or RDG, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Yeah, no, RDG, that's right. Yep. Come on up.
There we go. Yeah. Well, thank you, Melissa. Mayor Clayton, members of the commission, I'm Marty Schukert, principal of RDG Planning and Design. With me is Carrie Thompson, who will be the lead landscape architect on the project. And behind me to the right is Randy Gordon, the engineering lead. I am the planning lead. A fourth member of the team is on a family vacation. Family is a priority. He is not with us, attempted to do it and was not able to I don't think.
I don't think he's on
Yeah.
as of yet, but
Yeah. Okay. So we are a four-firm team who have worked together very closely over the past decades, involving planning, urban design, landscape architecture, engineering, transportation planning, and community engagement. We at RDG are, we think, regional and perhaps national level experts in downtown planning. We are a general planning firm, but have worked in 11 different states on a variety of downtown plans in towns that are as small as 140 and as big as 650,000. So a variety of contexts. We want to talk briefly about our approach, about elements of our experience and our impressions of Ottawa in the brief time that we have. We value community engagement tremendously. It is really the key between a good plan and something that winds up being put on the shelf. We use a variety of different techniques that are both in person and online. They involve going to where people are, to understanding meetings and shopping and being seen in the specific areas that we're studying. We love talking to people, but we know not everybody will be engaged in person, so we have a variety of online techniques, including interactive mapping, that address those concerns as well. But the thing that we think is most important and most central to our process are the design studios that we do. Here we work with the community, with community members in person and interactively to generate ideas very quickly, to look at what's good, what's bad, and to use that as a way of coming to decisions, conclusions in a very expeditious way. It's a wonderful process. It's a little bit like an ongoing party. So it's something that we love to do, and it creates the kind of connection and relationship building that works so well. A major concern is the public realm, obviously, the street, the area around it, and Carrie's going to talk a bit about that.
Thanks, Marty. In your RFP and in the proposal, some of your concerns were the existing landscape. So we have a certified arborist on staff that will help out with tree selection and the tree and our knowledge too of doing streetscapes all over the Midwest for the last 20 years. We know what works downtown and what doesn't in these urban environments. And at our design studios, you'll see sketches like this that the public can react to. We'll look at placemaking ideas that help tell the story of Ottawa and integrate that into your downtown. We'll look at concepts for different wayfinding options. You know, how can we get people from the trails to downtown and vice versa, from downtown to the trails? And again, helping tell the story of Ottawa. We'll also look at lighting as a major component of the street and how that infrastructure relates with all the different components within the streetscape.
So the process is to help you come up with what you think is the desired direction you want to take downtown. As part of that, we're going to look at your existing infrastructure because we need to make sure you understand and we understand what can currently be supported through the transportation, utility, drainage and other key support structures of the community. And then going forward, as part of that process, we'll do an assessment of your current conditions. Now, let me be very clear. We'll take advantage of a lot of work that you've already done, right? And consider that. We will not reinvent the wheel. But we can, where needed, do some additional condition assessments, especially accessibility, if there are transportation, traffic questions, things like that, to build upon the information you can already provide to us, to make sure as we look at options, we can also inform you in terms of what additional improvements may need to be made along the way to help you further your goal.
Connections are a key problem and a key issue, and we really read that from the RFP. And connectedness really goes into a variety of different things, to trails, to the bicycle environment. We were the master planners for the Flint Hills Trail, so we know that corridor very well, and are involved in bicycle planning on a metropolitan and local scale throughout Kansas, about to start in Wichita and around the region. And an interesting issue is ultimately connecting Main Street with Legacy Plaza and with the Walnut Street corridor. Here's a good example of a challenge and an opportunity of being able to see the market shelter in Legacy Plaza and not exactly being able to get to it from Main Street, although the connection is there. So those become opportunities, ways of telling the story and making one block that seems disconnected from the other block together and part of a united downtown framework. This being in Council Bluffs, Iowa, similar situation with rear of Main Street parking and an historic Main Street environment. This is a great example and a project that's under construction of connecting trails, parking, a Main Street setting, and traffic flow into a combined solution for the community. And it's something that, again, we think very well, and that's a real opportunity presented by the facts on the ground in Ottawa. Putting this together creates a vision, but a realistic vision that looks not just at beautiful pictures, but also how you do things is a real priority. I'm a former planning director of a metropolitan city. I have not always been a consultant, but understand the importance of implementation. So this is an example of looking of actually realizing a major vision in Marion, Iowa. Looks like a rendering. It's not. It's a real photograph. We understand the ideas of streetscape, of developing places for people, of understanding that our cities really need to be four-season cities, and of developing ideas and places where people can gather, not just in good weather or hot weather, but also in bad weather. Finally, moving into implementation and how we realize all of this, we are very committed to implementation and, again, to realistic planning. Our downtown plan, for example, in Olathe was just recognized in 2026 by the Mid-America Regional Council as the outstanding implemented plan for the MARC district. That was very exciting to us. And also this project, which grew out of that plan, where we proposed what we call a cycle track, is illustrative of some of that kind of work and looking at opportunities. And finally, into implementation, developing a specific roadmap.
Yeah, we recognize we're helping you develop your own vision, right? This is not ours. We haven't thrown plans up here to show you, hey, here's your new Main Street, right? That's a little arrogant on a consultant's part. We want to show you examples of where we've helped other cities do that. But we know that the ultimate purpose is you actually want to change. You don't want to dream. You actually want to implement and create. So as part of this process, right, we'll develop task lists, cost estimates, funding opportunities that would be applicable to the different elements of improvements, right, that would support whatever it is your vision is. So that it's a plan, but it's also your blueprints to move forward so you can actually, again, that's a great picture Marty showed from Marion of, it looks like the nice proposal pieces, right? But it shows they actually did it. So I think it's a wonderful kind of illustration of our intent.
So finally, on schedule, we have proposed an 8 to 9 month schedule for you, which we think is both moves ahead, but gives people the time for consideration and for a real public process and public ownership component and process to work. And so finally, we are here for you to answer questions, but wanted to show you a little bit of a very recent project, because you have to sell these things as well, and to give people a strong idea and a strong notion of what it is we're talking about and what some of the possibilities might be. And so that concludes our presentation, and look forward to being able to answer any questions that you might have. As soon as we walk down the street here.
It's worth waiting for.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed your first slide, didn't write it down fast enough. What other cities in Kansas have you done? You saw DeSoto, you saw Olathe.
Yeah. Whoop, there we go.
Right
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
DeSoto, Fort Scott. We did the Highway 69 corridor that included downtown, Olathe, Overland Park, Mays. I forgot Mays. Yeah, Mays. It's not up there.
And could you go back to that? You'd mentioned 8 to 9 months, kind of that timeline.
Sure.
Kind of slide.
Good thing about a short presentation is that it's easy to flip back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to read the events down at the bottom, the kind of
Oh.
pop-ups. So you've got some online tools, listening sessions. So is that meeting with kind of key stakeholders?
That's correct. Yeah,
different
exactly
groups?
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a variety of things that include like individual quote consultations, talking with people, with business owners, being on the street. I think it's important to be a customer of a district that we're studying, because it's part of the ball game. And these involve both individual discussions and group discussions, depending upon what's appropriate. We depend upon city staff to help identify those people.
Thank you. And within there, you had mentioned it had some slides that showed kind of cost estimates and different things broken down like
Yeah.
that. Do you guys typically see in stuff like this that, if you're a dreamer, I'm assuming most of you in this line of work, you look like dreamers.
Realistic dreamers.
Do you guys also include to be like, if something were to happen, here's what we could do. If that doesn't happen, and kind of provide multiple tiers of options that, were
Yeah.
the step ever go to a bond issue and that doesn't pass, is there
Here's
something that can still be
yeah,
done in certain
yeah.
areas and what that
Um,
might look like?
Having been a metropolitan planning director in another life, which you learn that things go wrong and don't happen, and you need to have the flexibility to work around those and still maintain and accomplish your goals.
And one thing I'll add is typically we'll identify individual projects or actions. Those are geared to be kind of standalone, but we also try and illustrate how they fit together. So depending on the funding opportunity, it may be, item A and C. In fact, we're getting ready to build one of those in Overland Park right now, where we took a study and we're doing 3 of the opportunities that were identified in the implementation plan, federally funded. Those are going to happen now. Moving forward, they can continue to add on and expand as funding allows. So we try and gear it with flexibility and the understanding that, again, you can't pay for it all at once. It never works that way. So how can we identify meaningful pieces that are worth investing in when you get that much available to work with?
Yeah, that kind of phasing is almost as much a design problem as the design problem.
See, I appreciate your emphasis on connectivity. I think that's important. Unfortunately, we had a building collapse, but fortunately, we can use that space like you suggested. It's downtown Lawrence has done that several places I'm sure you're familiar with. And we may have another building that's a similar situation too, unfortunately, but it can create some connectivity. So I appreciate your emphasis on that and making something good out of something bad.
Yeah, good. Anything else? Well,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I
we are
certainly
excited
appreciate
about
that.
Ottawa, and from my days on the Flint Hills Trail, it's always a town that I've wanted to work in. So we appreciate and are honored by being selected to interview today, to present today, and hope to have a chance to work with you. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Marty, Corey, and Randy.
The next group we'll have is Olson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Abby Newsham. I am the project manager on this initiative. For the last decade, I have worked with communities across the country and across this region on a number of downtown planning projects. I really focus on implementation and strategic planning, and it's just something that I hold very near and dear to my heart because downtowns, whether you're doing comp planning or any type of planning, really, downtown is the place that people point to when they talk about what their community is all about. And it's really where a community's personality becomes most visible. And you all have a wonderful downtown, by the way. So very excited about this opportunity. I have a quick presentation to go through, but I would like for members of our team to introduce themselves so that you're aware of who they are for the Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Cody Pratt. I'm a lead landscape architect, urban designer, and placemaking strategist with Olson. So what that really means is I get to do a lot of the really cool, fun stuff. Over the last 20-ish years, I've had the opportunity to transform a lot of underutilized spaces into iconic places, utilizing art and design and programming to just really make a lot of cool spots. And I'm excited to help you all with your vision here in Ottawa.
Good afternoon. I'm Darren Varner. I'm a lead landscape architect, and I'll be working on the design heavily with Cody. We have a great time in our office in the Crossroads of Kansas City. So we wear a lot of hats, also big in sports and recreation, and just urban design and master planning. So all the fun stuff. We have the greatest time ever. So we really hopefully we can work with you and see a lot of smiling faces. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shelby Ferguson, a lead planner within our planning team. And specifically for this project, I would be focused on the public engagement focus and leading that effort alongside Abby and helping her with any of the other planning needs as needed. I come with 17 years plus experience in comprehensive planning, downtown planning, all sorts of different long-range planning, as well as being a public engagement specialist. So one of my favorite things is really to get out in your community, start to talk to people, really make sure that their vision and their voices are heard throughout the plan and throughout the project process. And so really just excited to get boots on the ground, start talking to people and see the vision come to life.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Weigel. I've been in transportation planning for about 11 years. I was most recently up the road at Lawrence. I was the director of Lawrence Transit for 5 years and also oversaw downtown parking enforcement, so got to understand a lot of that world. I've worked in bicycle and pedestrian planning, short and long range, and I'm really excited about your regional trails that you have here and what that means for downtown and the different ways different transportation comes together down in this area. So would be really excited to work with you all.
And I'm Zoe Brown. I'm an associate planner with Olson. Before working here, I was a planner with Johnson County, Kansas. And actually, as a part of the proposal, we, a few of us on the Olson team came to Ottawa, spent the day here, talked to some folks downtown, took some pictures, and it was lovely. So we're super excited to be hopefully working with you all.
I wanted to go ahead and do that just because this is really the core team that would be working on the project. We're all local to the Kansas City and Lawrence area. And so we have a team that has an incredible amount of experience and ideas to bring to the table. And we're really excited about this opportunity. So you have our proposal, which contains a lot of the what of what we are proposing here. So I wanted to talk about the how. And the how of planning is really important to us because this is an investment, not just in having a document at the end of the day. This investment is about setting you guys up for implementation. It's about engaging your community in an authentic way so that this plan is really owned by the people who interact with downtown, not just the city. And it's also about bringing alignment, funding mechanisms, actions that can be taken, and the timing that is needed to bring people together to actually see outcomes. So those are the things that I want to talk about in our how. Starting with implementation, it was very clear to us when reviewing this RFP that this plan needs to be about getting you guys to implementation. We take a lot of pride as a group in seeing plans come to life and really working as a partner with the communities we work with to really, make things happen. And so that's why we're always thinking about not just the ideas, but how do we actually make this happen? How is it achievable and realistic? We, as a firm, touch nearly every aspect of city building. So Olson is not just doing planning or conceptual designs. We do streetscapes, we do parks, we do bikes, we do a lot of different things, and we do all of the fun underground infrastructure that we love to talk about. So there's a lot that we can bring to bear in this planning process that is going to be really important in getting to implementation. And we're also not just thinking about the really big projects and the big catalytic investments that can happen. Implementation is also about all of the other stakeholders in your downtown. So one example that I love to share are parklets. So I worked with Downtown Lawrence with them on their parklet program, which started as a pilot and then it eventually became a long-term program. And it sounds simple, but there's a lot of nuance to making parklets work. And they make a really big impression on how people see your downtown, how people interact within the public realm. And it's something that can be enabled by the city, but it's really owned by the businesses. It's really done by small businesses. And so that's something that we're thinking about when considering implementation strategies, that it's not just about what the city can do, but this is really about the whole community. And ultimately, we're also not just thinking in terms of projects, but all the P's: people, policies, programs, partnerships, and funding, which starts with an F, not a PH. But we're always thinking in these kinds of terms and how we think about planning. The second piece I wanted to talk about is our approach to community engagement. Downtown is really fundamentally about people. It's not just about the buildings or the streets or the infrastructure. The people who interact with downtown are the ones who are really going to drive the evolution of your plan. Zoe mentioned that we start at the proposal stage when we're engaging with community because we really want to understand and really spend time in the places that we're planning for. So yeah, that's a picture of Zoe. She loves that I'm sharing this. And it's just something that's incredibly important to our process, that we're authentically engaging with folks in the community. We have a lot of different strategies that we can bring to the table for how we engage. Some people like to show up to a meeting. Some people just want to respond to a survey online. Some people want to get coffee. So there's many different ways that we can meet people where they're at, and we customize this strategy. We have recommendations in our proposal, but we always customize it with the team so that it's really adaptable and layered and can really meet the needs of your community. So the last thing I'll talk about is alignment, because we understand that your community is not starting from scratch. There's a lot of ideas that you're already thinking about. And so while we can bring a lot of experience and ideas to the table, we really see our role as bringing alignment to the implementation process. And a lot of that is because people don't experience their downtown as silos, but action can often happen that way. You might have different departments doing different things. You may have different leaders who are interested in different aspects of the downtown and outside organizations that are all also doing different actions. And having activity and action is really great. But if it's not aligned, then you don't have a cohesion in your space. And so that's something that is really important, that we're utilizing this process to really get all the ideas on the table and then bring things into alignment with timing and funding, and have a real strategic plan. And ultimately, that's about building momentum. So we want to make sure that we are not just supporting progress and activity, but really being smart about how we're planning for different projects or policies or partnerships in your downtown area. So whether that is a program for downtown businesses to, have incentives for facade improvements or streetscape revitalization projects. There's just so many different things that we could talk about in this process, and we want to make sure that we are layering funding and really being in alignment with all of the different people who would be involved in this. And so ultimately, that's how our schedule and our process is really set up. We have engagement really throughout every single phase of our process, and it's intended to not just get you to having a document, but get you to the point of being able to really take action once you have your plan established as a city and as a community. So that's something that is very important to us. So with that, happy to answer any questions. We have the team here again. And just want to thank you again for the opportunity to share more about this. We love downtowns, and you guys have just a lovely downtown that you should be very proud of. So we hope that we get to work with you.
Well, thank you. And I do want to give you guys kudos. I was going to say, from your headshots, I could have named all of you guys. Most of the time when you see headshots, you always have to kind of find out who's who.
We didn't Photoshop
I was
any
gonna
of our
say,
photos.
I don't know if you took them today.
We're
but
all
they looked-
real.
They looked really accurate. So I appreciate that you mentioned the parklets. That's basically the restaurants during COVID that extended onto the parking spaces. I saw that you have Manhattan, because downtown
I was going to say
Manhattan has that
Manhattan,
as well.
Aggieville's on it. Yeah.
So were you guys kind of in that process during that, or are you just kind of now on the back end that they're already existing post-COVID? and
No,
integrating that?
so I was working with the Downtown Business Association during the pilot phase. And so they really needed to find a way to keep businesses open when the pandemic happened. So I actually started by working with the Downtown Business Organization and then working as a bridge with the city to make that happen. A pilot program for parklets is, there are still things that need to be put in place to really make it work. There was a lot of things we learned from that pilot process. But basically what we did after about a year and a half of doing the pilot is the city wanted to create a long-term program and to really engage the stakeholders for that. So that was its own process where I basically created a giant matrix of every standard that every city in the country has for parklets and had a conversation with individual businesses and really worked through their concerns. They have a very robust parking management team in Lawrence, which you probably know all about. And so that's something that we worked on, as well as balancing the need for parking and the desire for businesses to have outside dining. So they have a program that's now in place, and it was a process to really get there, but it required very deep and direct and sustained engagement to get there, to do a program in that way.
Real quick, the other one too, you had mentioned Manhattan. It's been highly successful on points. We had done a design charrette, a downtown, or a master plan for Aggieville, and that had then parlayed into, we're on phase number 5 or 6 right now, where we actually have permanent parklets. I worked with the businesses there, worked with the ABA to be able to serve alcohol in this particular district, at this block, in within these parameters. So it's a really neat program that has then transformed into an actual fixed built scenario.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw the Aggieville there. It looks very different than it did 50 years ago when I was there, but nonetheless, it's still there, so I'm glad to see it succeeding. Downtown, it seemed like sometimes we're close to Lawrence, we're close to Olathe, we're 20 minutes to Lawrence, 30 to Olathe. And the interstate system is a blessing and a curse both, I guess, is people tend to want to go up to the city somewhere else to shop, and we like to keep people here local. I don't know what you do or how you can help with our retail business establishments. We don't have very many vacant buildings. We're doing pretty good, I think, for a town our size with what we've got and the close proximity we are to Lawrence and Olathe. But do you incorporate or do you add to it suggestions on how we can fill these empty spaces that we have here in our city?
So I have a whole soapbox on what I call legacy storefront buildings. So I'm the founder also of a nonprofit initiative that is for Incremental Development Alliance. So it's all about local people rehabbing these historic buildings. So there's a lot of nuance to making storefront buildings work, and even like putting residential on the second floor. So I think that's something that we can definitely bring to this process. I have a lot of ideas for how to make the retail component work because there's some financing challenges with how lenders will value residential versus retail. But that's definitely economic development strategies to fill those vacancies is most definitely something that we can talk about.
Thank you.
And I appreciated that you talked about the layering of funding. Previous agenda item we had for this is a study that would potentially open the door to CDBG funding if it were to go through. And I think downtown, there's so many of these projects, pending whatever company we go with puts on a plan, that there will be opportunities for funding that's not taxpayer funding, sales tax funding. We have a great relationship with Sharice Davids and our other representatives in Washington, D.C., and have received funds for a lot of things that you guys would likely put on a plan, infrastructure upgrades, those types of things. So I'm really excited to see what ideas whoever we decide to go with comes up with for downtown. One thing I had a question on was with those kind of parklets is third spaces. I'm a huge fan of third spaces. I think somewhere you can exist that's not home and work and you don't have to spend any money. We have some beautiful parks in town, places that people go. And I think downtown right now does serve as one. You know, during the summer, you see people up and down. You see kids probably zooming a little too fast on their little motorized scooters, but you see people downtown. And so is that something as well that you kind of blend into that? You know, we see those pictures of shade awnings, coverings, places where people can stop. Instead of just park their car, run in, hop in, and zoom away.
That's spot on. And a lot of it too goes into the things that we don't see that are working behind the scenes, such as Wi-Fi accessibility, providing the infrastructure there for someone to be able to plug in their phone. I mean, we're all connected to that nowadays, but just as you're sitting there, having climate control for like Morrow Street, we included some heaters there in Aggieville. But having a lot of that other infrastructure provides a spot for people to stay and stay longer in those third spaces.
We kind of did that in Lee Summit with the create that Green Street market. That used to be a street running right through there, and it turned into a big totally round and got rid of the street with that. So that's a big bonus spot now downtown that people can just go and chill out and have night vibes through there. So it ties into the market, but during the week, people file out of the restaurants and they go right in there and they sit and they visit. They might put food down there from a restaurant and eat in there. So that's a free, great bonus free spot like you're talking about. It's really advertised. Very old, nice.
Another example of those that actually came up in the Lawrence Parklet program process, a lot of P's, was actually they have these mid-block crossings, which have small parks within them. And so that was a whole conversation of how do you manage that with businesses that want to use it for a parklet because they are a park. So they actually ended up making those more so like Green Street, where there's still public spaces, but people can go get food and sit in them. So those kinds of things, it's very nuanced, but very important to get people sitting and lingering and not just going to one place in the downtown.
Thank you.
And just another question. I know we've got 4 lanes downtown. We've talked about years ago going to 2-lane and kind of incorporating some more places for people to sit and eat dinner or walk, whatever it might be. Have you done that in any cities in your past to go from 4 lanes to 2 and how that came about and whether the city accepted, the people accepted?
Yeah, so, well, you may be able to speak to this as well. changing from 4 lanes to 2 and then having turning lanes is a very common transition happening right now. A lot of that is because 4 lanes doesn't necessarily create additional roadway capacity. It actually just creates a situation where people are bobbing back and forth because you've got people taking lefts and rights, and then people, just merge into the lane where people aren't stopped in. So there's a lot of safety issues with 4-lane sections. I think that this is an opportunity to study different sections that could be designed and really get community feedback and understand what people might be most concerned about with changing the roadway. But yeah, 4 lanes in the downtown is probably not necessary, but it is an opportunity to look at different streetscape designs and see what people really want to do to improve that streetscape.
I think a great example is downtown Salina. If you all have been there, we did a master plan for them back in maybe 2018, and it's super wide right of way. I believe it was 4 lanes. Now it's 1 lane each way, angled parking on each side, and then we kept that middle section as a decorative rumble strip with the old clay bricks put in there, so it's still usable for loading, unloading, offloading, things like that. Is still the public realm, but it was a really cool design solution for that.
Won't over answer this, but there's a couple other things to think about, I guess. And you all are blessed with some good space. I mean, not only the 4 lanes, but the angled parking creates a lot of options that you could look at. Cody mentioned delivery space and having space for those vehicles is important to think about within your reconfiguration. But I mean, you can evaluate parallel parking, you can evaluate lane reductions, and you've got a lot of space to work with. So there's a lot of different things we could evaluate and talk through what people are and aren't comfortable with.
And if I could just add, from the engagement side of it, I know that everyone's talked about kind of more the technical piece of it, but to your point, that's a significant change that could happen, in the downtown and cause some heartburn for residents and just those who traverse the area. And so I've worked on a project where we did exactly that. It went from 4 to 2 lanes. But as part of the engagement, we used a pop-up event as a demonstration project, put out cones, put out some activity areas, really for a day, let people experience what it would be like to come and experience that kind of bump out parklet piece, as well as in narrowing down that lanes both ways, just really so they could get a feel and understanding of how that is. So not necessarily something that is exactly proposed within our engagement approach right now, but if that is something that we wanted to look at and consider, we could, really start to talk about what that could look like in partnership with Main Street as well as the city and all of that, just because that can help with, at the end of the day, the buy-in ultimately on reducing that lane piece for your community and how they experience it.
Do we have any other questions? The Olson team? Well, thank you all for being here. We
Yes,
really
thank you very
appreciate it.
much.
Now we have Bartlett and West. We have Dennis and Field.
Will they be able to speak?
To answer questions, don't know that we can put them on.
For our presentation.
You can hit the next.
Keep going.
Yeah, I think there you go. Oh, wait.
There we go. Looks like everything. There we go. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners. Really excited for this opportunity to be in front of you. My name is Darren Ammon with Bartlett and West, and we are partnered with Borderless Studio. Going to introduce the folks here in the essence of time to be succinct with what you've asked for here in terms of our presentation. We've got Beth Valdivia, an architect with Bartlett and West, Casey Colburn, a professional engineer, historic preservationist and interior designer, Melina Stewart. And online, who you will not see, are Paula and Dennis, who are our partners at Borderless, national planning and experts in terms of urban planning, downtowns, and so forth. So there is no, it's, okay. Can we see the presentation? If I flip through. Okay, perfect. So what we wanted to do here real briefly is talk a little bit about, Bartlett and West is very much invested in the community of Ottawa. You're probably familiar with our name. We've been invested for over 20 plus years. We're chamber members, we're members of FCDC, we're involved in volunteerism and philanthropic organizations within the community, and have been involved in everything from Proximity Park to Legacy Square and the new Neosho Community College campus and everything in between. So the success of this project is really important to us, not just from a project basis, because we've been here and we're going to be here well beyond this project. But these types of things are a once in a lifetime really opportunity for you and really for us to work together to create a vision for the future. So we're really excited about that opportunity to do that. And we actually even have staff that live in the Ottawa community within our organization. Real briefly, if you're not familiar with Bartlett and West, we are a full AEC firm, architecture, engineering, and construction. We have all of that in-house, can do the planning and landscape architecture and all of the, under the ground needs, infrastructure, dealing with all of the utilities, traffic studies, and all of those types of things that folks don't necessarily see day to day and can handle all of that. But really marrying all that together, we've been here for a while, so we understand some of these types of things because we've dealt with it in the community and we can really hit the ground running. But that alone, this isn't about Bartlett and West. And what we wanted to do was find a partner that really comes from outside of the community and has a national, even international perspective of what they do. And they do this every day. And that's Borderless Studio. They bring a really keen eye to what this project can become for the community. They'll talk a little bit here if we can, or I'll present it if we can't hear them online, about their public engagement strategies, going where the people are, finding out the information, understanding what's important to the local business and how can we engage and interact with the community and all of these different things, but also connectivity. The one thing that's really unique about Ottawa and being here so long is you already have a great downtown. Let's just enhance it and make it even better. How can we get those last two storefronts that don't have businesses activated, and do things like that and understand how that ties into the historic perspective? Everything from the North Industrial Park down to Proximity Park on the south, everything on the east from I-35 along that K-68 corridor that goes to where the Prairie Spirit Trail connects to Legacy Park, and make the hub right downtown in Ottawa, Kansas. That's exciting of what can happen and all the different things from parklets, connectivity, trails, active events, and fantastic different things that can be, because with the money you're going to spend is an investment in your community and the people that live here every day. That's extremely important, and we're excited to have a part of that. So talking about this real briefly, this doesn't get done in a vacuum from the standpoint of understanding there is planning, there's extreme public engagement, there's all kinds of these different things, and understanding and listening to what the business owners and people of this community want to do, but also thinking about those technical aspects. How are some of these utilities and traffic needs? You just heard in the last presentation, you were talking about, you have 4 lanes, you have parking. Can we activate some different things with parklets and other things like that? But doing it, thinking about mobility, accessibility, safety, and doing that all comes at a cost, and understanding when a plan can be put together, let's create that roadmap. So this can be implemented and put together potentially and probably in phases. How is that going to happen? Unless you have a big checkbook on day one, but thinking about, I know the mayor mentioned grants and how other things can be activated to work within the community. So if Paula's online, she'll talk a little bit about our approach and planning process briefly.
Thank you, Darren. Can you all hear me okay? I hope so.
Yep, they're nodding. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Wonderful. My name is Paola Aguirre. I'm a partner at Borderless Studio, and we're very excited to be part of this team. As mentioned before, we are fortunate to work with communities all around the country, even in my hometown, Mexico. I'm tuning from Mexico today. I would love to be with you all today, but family first, right? We're no strangers to the Kansas community. We have worked in a few neighborhood master planning efforts in Kansas City, Kansas. But we also been invited to share our work at Kansas University in Lawrence. So for this proposal, we're excited to learn about Ottawa. And so in addition to having a well-established planning methodology, you heard from today, all the teams have very strong methodologies. Our practice is recognized by community-centered approach. We would think about extensive listening and learning. And that's why the first thing that we develop in collaboration with our clients is our engagement plan. We do not draw a single line or draft strategies without an honest and deep understanding of the communities that we work with. Another main aspect of our methodology is how to work in parallel with multiple dimensions and systems of downtown to assess opportunities in an integrated way. This is all about connecting the dots, how infrastructure, public realm, and buildings, and investment in buildings leverage each other. Can we go to the next one, please? We spent significant energy brainstorming and finding creative ways for outreach, engagement, data collection. We care about both quantitative and qualitative data. So numbers are important as the lived experiences of the residents are both equally valuable for us to understand challenges, but also to set priorities. So you can see, we are on the ground when we talk with business owners, when we talk with seniors, when we talk with young people. We really like to be have a constant presence with the communities that we work with. And so we use different tools, analogs, digital, different methodologies that helps us to conduct this outreach. The goal here is just to engage as multiple age groups and socioeconomic groups with residents and stakeholders. And we really find more effective to identify early opportunities where communities are already gathering, you'll have markets, festivals, celebrations, reunions, activities, anything that helps us to bring the planning conversations to the residents as opposed to expecting, the opposite. We would have standalone events, but we really think, hard, how can we bring those conversations where people are already going? In some projects, we even been able to activate spaces such as vacant storefronts as our planning headquarters. You can see on the top graph in South Division corridor in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where one of our steering committee members helped us to activate one of their properties. And lastly, I just want to say we design engagement to have what we call multiple points of access, which is a way to say, how do we integrate in multiple moments of our planning process, engagement as the companion for our entire project timeline. And it's a good segue to pass it to Pace.
Thank you. So what you see in here in front of you is the schedule that we've built on a few different things. One, can we meet your needs with it? Two, do we build enough time in there to actually do community engagement? And three, can we say that we can meet this deadline? That's our capacity. We don't want to sell you something that we can't, follow through on. So that's what helped build us this schedule. You can see there's key points in there about community engagement and building that and how we collect that data and actually, meet with people, look at the numbers and actually have time to bring it back to you and see where the data takes us. This isn't the Bartlett and West and Borderless Studio master plan. This is the Community of Ottawa's master plan. So it's our job to collect the data, see where it takes us. So this is going to be a lasting impact on the community of Ottawa. There's a lot of momentum already in downtown, and how do we build on that? There's a lot of stakeholders in town. You can think about the ones just right off the bat: the City of Ottawa, Main Street, the Chamber, those the business owners, the building owners. But you also have to look at all the other stakeholders and the impact that this is going to have on it. We have the police chief, fire here today. They're going to want to be stakeholders in this because whatever we have to do, they have to protect. How do we bring them to the table? You look at who else uses it? Ottawa University. They still have events down here. Bringing them in, helping, how can this help with them? Neosho County Community College. What about K through 12? Talking with Dr. Cobbs, trying to get a group of students because the lasting impact are those students. They're going to be the ones that are using it in the future, you hope. And also, if they can see that their ideas actually get implemented, that just builds that momentum going forward. And then also, once we get all this data, how do we collect all this data? We build on the events that are already here. Think about Ladies' Night Out, doing the storefront in one of those, setting up a booth in there, having people come in, have a QR code or a quick survey and participate in that. You have the car show. You have thousands of people downtown during that weekend. Can you build on those types of things? Your upcoming concert, if there was another one of those, that would be great places to have people handing out a survey that they could take really quickly and getting that input. So there's a lot of stakeholders we've got to bring in. Again, this isn't our master plan. This is the community's master plan. We want to hear that, have those voices in there. So talking about the lasting impact, the Bartlett and West's core purpose is leading communities to a better tomorrow. It's something that I live by. We have another butterfly picture as the group before us, but as you know, born and raised here, still heavily involved here. My kids love going to Mugshot, Corner Market, Splash Pad. I introduced them to the arcade this weekend, and their grandpa took them back today because they wanted to go back. So planned my 20-year class reunion at Legacy Square. So it's something that we think about, that we're not here just for this project. We do want to see it, as Darren mentioned, the 25 years experience. But we bring Borderless Studio with us. And with that, we bring two national firms together, and we build on the momentum the city already has, our experiences within the city, and then the national Borderless Studio, what they've done in other communities, to come together with one goal in mind, to deliver a master plan that can leave a lasting impact with the community. So with that, we'll turn it over to questions.
Maybe real quick, before you have a question, I'll note, and actually our last slide shows the dots are projects that we've been involved with in the community in the last 20 plus years. But that aside, as Casey mentioned, this is really important to us, and thank you for allowing our partners to be online. Again, they were scheduled to be out of the country on vacation today, but we didn't want to delay the process, so they apologize in advance for not being here with us in person. They will be here with us if we are the chosen consultant and are provided this great opportunity to work with you. So thanks for allowing them to at least participate virtually today. No, not ideal.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm glad you mentioned something, because he mentioned that Bartlett and West has employees that live in Ottawa, and I was going to call you out on not being one of those.
It's not me.
No, I know. That's why I was going to call you out, but we'll give you some grace for all your years here and your whole family. So thank you guys for your presentation. And, we totally understand people being gone. It's the summer. It's around the 4th of July. It's a busy time. On your slide for your timeline, I was kind of quickly trying to look at it. Was it about 7 months?
Yeah, the short answer to this is we can build a timeline that really works with the community. But typically when we've engaged with these and speaking with Borderless, who does these day to day, it's a 6 to 9 month process. And if you think about where we are here now, you're in the summer, as you just mentioned, vacations and so forth. If this gets going now toward the end of summer, you're starting to move into fall to get started for some of that existing understanding of infrastructure, which we've got a great knowledge of, but the car show is right around the corner. Recent projects, we've set up a tent or used the storefront. No better way to get people and find them where they're already at. And hey, do you want to take this on the app? Do you want to fill it out later? Do you want to just fill out a quick form now? We had so much response on that on a recent project in DeSoto. It took me longer than I thought, quite honestly, to go through all the data, but also put it all together, what we had in the computer. So finding those types of things, long-winded answer, feels like about a 6 to 9 month process. If we started late summer, it'd be in the spring sometime. But again, working with you on that and schedules and events, and this isn't something to rush through, because it's, again, a once in a lifetime opportunity to be done right.
I agree. Thank you for that. And I think with this, there's a lot to be said for seeing each season. Being involved in downtown and doing a lot of things down there, it's totally different today than it'll be January 4th when it's cold and people, most downtowns have that winter slowdown. And what does that look like kind of for the community in all those different times? And so I think that's a great thing for that as well. And you'd mentioned, the partnership with Borderless that they had. Do you know, have they done any in Kansas? I know you said international, you said some other places around. Do you know if there's been any?
Yeah, I don't know if you're online and you can answer that directly, but I mean, the one recently was in Kansas City, Kansas. Okay.
KCK?
So, yeah.
We work, yes, thank you. I'm sure you cannot see our faces. I can see you all, but we work with Wendell County with Armourdale neighborhood just south of downtown in Kansas City. in the northeast neighborhood. Oh, there I am. Sorry, my face looks super big. So those two neighborhoods, just, north of downtown, south of downtown, in the recent, I think the northeast area plan was 2018. More recently, Armordale, south of that was 2021. So they're not so far from now. It was really interesting to get to work with those communities. Those were master planning processes around 9 to 10 months. So we got to get very creative with Armordale because it was during pandemic. So we all had to pivot and think of creative ways to connect. We connected very, very strongly with community members that helped us to go through that process. And I think everyone was really excited with how the plan came to be.
Thank you. Obviously, you guys had mentioned being where people are. I just want to say I really appreciate that, because thinking about, if you talked to me 10 years ago about playground design, I would have had absolutely no opinion on it because I'm never there. But now being a father and being at playgrounds and seeing their use, I think mentioning that, being downtown for those things, where the people are there, why they're there, what are they doing there, is a great idea for something to add to this, to see what they are looking for in their experience downtown.
And I think that's where talking about getting students involved. We've done that in the past because their ideas sometimes you might think are really wild, but are also that's what would draw them downtown. If they want to go downtown, their parents have to bring them downtown usually. So that just means there's more people downtown, chances of spending. And we talk about Kansas Avenue, Topeka. We did that with the pocket parks. Those little things, if mom and dad need a break, they can climb the big pencil down there and things like that. Some of those things to kind of keep that entertained. But some of those pocket parks came out of talking to kids of like, what would you imagine of a random park in downtown? And somebody threw out an idea of like, oversized like school supplies or something like that. So it's listening to those people that will be in there no matter their age.
Oh, that's great. When I asked them at Career Day, they said Chick-fil-A. And I said, I can't do that. But
we can get a spot for food trucks, and they can bring their trailer.
Okay,
down.
see, that works.
And we can get some
So-
queen pins. I know queen pins
Yeah.
would be a good one too.
do we have, go ahead.
Just one thing, you guys been mainstay here, I know, so I see, I've known you for years and years, and so you certainly know our community very well, and so I want to point out, of course, the rail trails is a really important thing for us. I think we're the only city in the state that has two that intersect here at First and Walnut, and I've often said it's a blessing. It's a geographical blessing that's been always begging to be promoted. Now we got Legacy Square, and we're starting to see some more activity of out-of-town people coming and using it. How do you see yourself using that amenity here to work with our downtown?
So I know Ottawa Bike and Trail has been talking about trying to have something that can't be equivalent as what happens in Emporia, but starting some bike races, and even if something that we could work with them on that platform. I mean, I had family come from St. Louis to ride both trails when the Katy Trail was flooded. So they needed to go somewhere, and they came here. I actually worked with Wendy Lee when we did the bike lane down the middle of Walnut Street. I understand how important parking is after that experience. That was a volunteer part. That wasn't even like Bartlett West. That was a volunteer, but I understand the importance of parking with that aspect of it. But I think it's trying to, meet the people in the middle. What events, are there events that we can use our platform, whether it's social media or whatever, to get out there and share those to build on that, but help them, if they have something going on, can we just, be at it? Can we help be a voice for it and, work together with it?
I was going to mention real quick, Mr. Skidmore, about Legacy Square, which has been a great access with the farmers market and everything in the community. And that's why I mentioned earlier, I guess didn't want to be remiss to mention it again, why we've partnered with Borderless Studios, bringing some outside perspective. We've been here a lot as a company. You live here every day. Sometimes you think things for granted and what it really is. Excuse me. But bringing in, what is everybody else doing? What can we create that's unique? Not just the same old thing. But again, I've said once before, Ottawa has a strong foundation. You have a really good downtown. We're not starting from scratch here, but just listening to the residents, students, business owners, what can we take to the next level? Let's dream a little, but then how do we implement the dream and do it successfully for the long term? So.
Do we have any other questions for Bartlett and West? Or for, oh, Borderless Studios, sorry. My own handwriting, I looked down. I was like, nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
City Clerk Sherman, do you know, will their presentations be available for packets? Do you know? Yes, yeah.
We don't release the proposals.
Okay.
Due to just sensitive information, but we can definitely
Or
put,
these guys, yeah, these out.
yes, we can, yes. we'll find
Okay.
a place.
Okay, that will take us to item 11C, review of 2027 operating budget. Director Landis will present and review the 2027 operating budget funds impacted by the city's mill levy.
Thank you. I know you've had a long meeting. We've had a lot of conversations about our 2027 operating budget up to this point. We are in the position now where our next meeting is the meeting before the deadline to report to Franklin County our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate and what your maximum mill rate will be. So the importance of this conversation today is to prepare us for the conversation that we'll need to have next week before that notification is due to the county. So to date, we've reviewed all of your utility funds, your community partner requests, some of our special revenue funds. And last week, we reviewed all of our assessed valuation report that came from the county, the impact of our incentives that are related to property taxes, and our revenue trends. And today we're focused on a path forward to the operations that are supported by property taxes, and those are your mill levy supported funds, and then leading to a final review of operational funds that are supported by property taxes at our next meeting, and again, making sure that we can report to the county on time. So the purpose of this slide here is just a quick review for you, a summary of where we are today. So we received our estimated valuation. It's just roughly 164 million. It's about a 4.5% increase over our last valuation. This generates, based on our current mill rate today, this would generate $315,000 of additional revenue over 4 mill levy funds. That includes your library, debt service, OMA, and your general services. The other revenue sources remain stable and they don't add anything to the additional revenues available to offset new expenses. And on the right, we've listed for you here just some of those general operations that are funded by mill levy funds or property taxes. Everything including your library, your auditorium, our golf course, annual geo debt payments, staffing and benefits, police, fire, streets, parks, facility and equipment, management, repair, and fleet replacement overall. The increases in cost supporting these operations in our draft budget for 2027 is $814,750.
That's from last year, that 814.
That's our proposed budget for next year.
for next
That's the increase over
Yeah, that
current year
increase, yeah,
2026.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what- all right,
Yep, those are increases. That's an increased amount there on the left for the revenues as well. So this, I guess, further goes into more conversation about the revenues in general. So we have limited additional supporting revenue across those 4 funds. The revenue streams, as we reviewed last week, were sales and use taxes, motor vehicle taxes, franchise fees, permitting, charges for service, investment interest. Roughly across those 4 funds, this produces about $60,000 in additional revenue over your current budget. And the ad valorem or the property taxes for next year's expenses is roughly 315,000. That assessed valuation drives the property tax dollars available to support those services that we provide to the community. And so that average over 5 years is 467,000. And so it really does show that we are trending in more of a slower increase in assessed valuation. And you saw that in our trend analysis we shared last week, where over the past 5 years, we've seen 10%, 9%, 8%, 7% increases in assessed valuation. And this year we're at 4.5%. Over the past 5 years, as you can see on the right, we have our average costs increase roughly 7% across our funds. They do fluctuate from year to year. Over those 6 years, we have had significant increases to health insurance and property insurance. We've had a compensation study implemented for staff salaries. We've had grant matches that supported significant airport projects. And then our funding of equipment and vehicle replacement plans and the acquisition of a golf course. The cost increases for our current service levels and what we are able to provide today and going into next year's budget is our focus has been on maintaining our current staff levels. And those benefits are contractual obligations, such as your general obligation debt payments, emergency communications center contribution, our crisis co-responder program, and then also maintaining our city-owned facilities and parks. So we have 10 city facilities that are maintained by mill levy funds or property taxes, as well as 12 city parks and trails. And then also your community partner support, which you've heard from them in previous meetings about their funding requests for 2027. So these cost increases for labor and benefits and contracts and facility maintenance, they continue to outpace our available revenue growth. On the left of this slide, we are sharing with you our mill rate history, and you can see that over time from 2016 to 2026, we have decreased our overall mill rate for the city. This is just representing the city and the library's portion of the total tax mill rate for any resident in Ottawa. Remembering that all of the other taxing entities have mill rates on top of ours, and so the total mill rate is roughly 158 for all taxing entities for 2026. But here, our average mill rate since R&R, since the revenue neutral rate process went into place in 2021, our average mill rate is 45.38. Some of the major considerations when we think about taxpayers and the property taxes that we receive are the delinquencies. And on the right, we've demonstrated for you how those property tax delinquencies have impacted us annually. So on average, it's roughly 5% delinquency overall. When you publish or when you certify a budget to the county, your hope is that you receive 100%. That's never the case, actually. A small delinquency rate is 2 to 2.5%. And so anything above that is where you start really getting into digging into your actual available cash for providing those services. And so when we consider the other consideration is not just your unpaid property taxes, but also any appeals that sit with the county at the time when they certify these assessed valuations to us. So as of today, I did check in with our county appraiser. There's a $9 million appeal sitting and waiting to be processed, which may not be considered by the Board of Tax Appeals until the mid-2027. So at that, we won't know what's impacting today's assessed valuation until the middle of next year. So that affects what we have, what's already been reported to us and what you're developing your budget by, and what we could receive less property taxes for in the future.
So that 11% jump, that just kind of jumps off the page, but as most of that attributable to that $9 million?
No, it's not. So thank you for mentioning that. I meant to mention that. We're only halfway through 2026. We have both. So if you think about when your property taxes are due, they're due in December and May. Those receipts come to us in January and June. And then we have some small distributions outside of that. As of today, we have received our receipts for both of those pay dates. we have two small distributions that should come to us in the next coming months yet this year. Franklin County is looking into why those amounts are lower than what we expect them to be for our distributions. Right now, I would say, yes, that's an alarming delinquency rate as of today. However, I know that there's some work yet to be done and some balancing conversations yet to be had. So right now, we'll just stick with that's a year-to-date number. We're only halfway through the year. We'll see where we land. We'll know more in the next coming months. Our hope would be that we land somewhere around that average, if not lower, of course. The revenue neutral rate is always part of our discussion, and I mentioned that we would be considering this at your next meeting. Part of the notice that we have to provide to Franklin County is due no later than July 20th, and we have to also indicate what that public hearing date will be, and then also what your maximum mill rate could be that you may consider, and you may then adopt anything less than that mill rate, but that's what Franklin County will use in their notification to all of our property owners within the city limits. On the left, you can see that our mill rate for the revenue neutral rate is 42.209. That is just about 2 mills less than where we are today. And then just a couple of reminders, adopting a revenue neutral rate does not mean that the property taxes will not go up for any one property within the city. There are multiple taxing jurisdictions, and also each property itself has its own assessed or appraised value that fluctuates from year to year based on market rates. And it's highly dependent upon whether that's been sold within the last few years or not. The R&R calculation is that the mill rate that would be generated by the same amount of property tax that we had certified for last year against this year's assessed property values. What we provided here is a lot of information on one screen, but we wanted to demonstrate for you some options that we may have in considering the 2027 budget. So when we discussed with you or shared with you the mill levy trend, as costs continue to rise and as the assessed valuations are starting to level out, we're left with somewhat of a gap between those two things. And where we're looking for is that sweet spot where we can continue to provide the services at the level that your residents expect from us, and still be able to maintain all of our contractual obligations, make sure that we can provide those full services. We can still replace our fleets, and we can still maintain our employee levels with benefits and maintain property insurance, all of those things that come with just operations overall. So our option one here, as we've presented it, is a level mill rate. We can maintain basic services here. And some of the things that we may have to do in order to keep this level mill rate would be to free some of our expenses, defer some of our maintenance costs. It certainly reduces our flexibility and our capability to be able to address issues as they come up. For example, this year we had a tornado event in which we had to come out of pocket for some expenses that likely won't be reimbursed, both in the form of overtime, some replacement of some equipment repairs, and then even the stone resetting at the cemetery. Those are all costs that were unanticipated, things that you need reserves for, and need to have some flexibility in your budget to be able to accomplish those expenses. The option number two is represents a 1 mil increase from today. That would allow us to focus on our priority services and maintain those. It does help to preserve our staffing levels, would help us to meet our contractual obligations, and then we would still need to find some ways to flatten our expenses somehow throughout a lot of our service departments or divisions in order to meet our expenditure needs for 2027. And on the right, we've proposed a 2 mil increase, which would help us to maintain our current service levels and be able to provide a reserve, which is not only expected from our rating agency for any future bond issues, but also is necessary for us to be able to maintain a level beginning fund balance year over year. So typically we target $2 million. Roughly, we will budget for a reserve in our general fund of 500,000 roughly, or possibly a little less, depending on what's available for those years. And the difference is generally comes from those unexpended line items, things that you don't anticipate, maybe your open positions, things that, our estimates for the upcoming year may come in lower. So those are ways that we're able to make sure that we can meet our fund balance requirements in our general fund, and also meet all of those requirements for our debt service fund, our library, and our OMA operational needs. In preparing all of this information, we anticipated that you might ask, well, how do we offset those continued increases in operating costs, and where we have limited ability to affect the total economy, which is what's impacting people right now. They're spending less of their discretionary funds. The costs are going up across the board for everyone, including our operations. We put together a slide here to just contemplate how community growth can help us impact or offset some of those future expenditures. And so here we've shown you what the growth of there's two ways to grow your community. One is grow your commercial and your industrial bases, and the second is to grow your population through the housing availability. And so we've, on the left under the grow housing inventory, communities that are investing in growth are adding over 100 new single-family homes in subdivisions per year. And on average, a $350,000 home generates a new property tax to your base of approximately $1,775. But when you quantify that year over year, that impact starts to add up. So 100 new homes in any 1 year adds $177,000 roughly. And then if you continue to add each year, then it grows over time. And that's how you can effectively impact and offset some of those costs that your community has. On the right, we just showed you a basic breakdown of where we've been over the past several years. So just in years 2020 through 2025, we've added 243 new homes. Now, I will say some of that is reflected in duplexes. We count those as doors and available homes as well. So 243 over those 6 years. And then in just 2026 alone, we've added 15 new, and those are available for occupancy totals. And then we have 26 homes in progress right now that have building permits pulled. I think that's the best information I have there. And then to move on to our remaining schedule, our July 15th, as I mentioned, we need to decide, we have to consider whether or not how we will notice Franklin County of whether we will exceed the revenue neutral rate and what our maximum mill rate would be. And then we would ask that you direct staff to publish those public hearing dates so that everyone could be notified of when they could appear to hear more about the final budget and to ask any questions they have. And then on September 2nd, we would hold our public hearings, one for the revenue neutral rate, one for adoption of your budget, and then also consider adoption of our capital improvement program on that same evening. And then we are available for any questions you might have. Really, we would be looking for some feedback from you so that we know how to prepare a lot of these budgets for you for a final review next week. As I mentioned, many of them are dependent upon property taxes that are generated from your general fund. So any transfers to the airport to fund those major projects, the transfers to the golf course, the ability to levy property taxes for the continued operations of the OMA, and then, of course, all of your services within the general fund. And we're available for any questions you have.
Thank you for all the information. I know you had mentioned on some of those increases, the increased costs over last year, $814,000, and kind of some highlight. Do you know what kind of you mentioned several, employee benefits, several things, kind of closer dollar amounts to where some of those things are? Is it that of that 800, is that increase more related to employee benefits or certain things?
It's a great question. I don't have all of those details here with me. That's just the proposed budget as we went through and we identified all the areas that have increased costs that we need to consider. I would say that our health insurance, we've has a small increase. We've continued to have larger increases on the property casualty side of insurance. Some of that is personnel cost, the benefit cost, CAPERS and KPNF, which is your retirement plans, continue to go up every year. Some of our contractual obligations, so for example, your crisis co-responder, they plan for a 2% increase every year, so that's built into the budget. Our immediate emergency communication center contribution, or what you consider your 911 contract, that's increased, and that's a small increase for next year as well. Some of the costs that you may not consider that we don't have any control over, things like gas, there's our phone costs. There's just other costs that are built in across the board for all of the services. Keep in mind that in your general fund, you don't just have the cost of your people, you have also the administration cost that comes with basically all of those general services that aren't your utilities. So those are built in, and then all of your debt service costs, as well as your OMA, and then the library.
Thank you. Do you guys have, I know in years past, we've had more of like a budget book that's much more granular.
We do have that, but we
Gotcha.
haven't finalized it because we don't know what to present to you. And so we have drafts of that, but until we know how you want to allocate or where you'd like to land on your overall mill rate, that dictates how much revenue is available. In order to put together a balanced budget, we'll have to go back and determine how to make the cuts before we can ever give you a finalized line item budget. So we're stuck in the position where we're not sure where to move at this point.
And can you go back a couple of slides where you showed the mill rate? Like one more right there.
Sure.
That one. So the 814, was that representative of option 3, or where'd that land in this?
Option 3 is roughly $720,000.
Okay, that would be
And
the 2
so,
mills, right?
I'm sorry?
That'd be 2 mills over what we did last year. Option 3.
Where we are this year in 2026.
I
Yes.
got you. Okay, this year. Yeah. Okay.
And then how much is a mill right now? $1,000 assessed is
163,000 for almost 164,000 for 2027. Today it's 156,000 plus. So roughly
what
70.
per assessed, per 1,000 assessed of each home, what's it going to cost a homeowner a mill?
It depends on the value of the home.
Right, but I mean, your assessed value is right in, a mill goes against your assessed value, right?
Your assessed value determines the number, the amount times your mill rate.
Times the
Yes.
mill rate. So what is a mill equal right now, dollar amount?
That 100.
One
this year's
full,
100.
yeah, but you're asking for each resident.
156,000.
Yeah, okay.
Next
For
year's
each resident, it's
163.
going to determine how much their value is of their home, which is what
Right.
dictates their assessed value, and then how much their valuation went up
Right.
impacts them.
Yeah, but that's what I was, 160.
So each 1 mil from 26 to 27 created just roughly $7,100. So if you take $7,100 times your 44 mills, that's how we generated the 315,000.
Well, I will say for me, I have absolutely no desire to increase 2 mills. We,
No, I
to
don't
me,
either.
we just got transient guest tax. We just got a 1% sales tax, and I know we have plans for it, but I cannot, in my right, I can't sit here. I have things we want to do. I want to do roads. I want to dump millions of dollars into roads, but I don't know if with that I can also say, hey, we're taxing you more when you shop to do these other things, but we're still going to raise your property tax 2 mills. I am not in favor of the option 3 for sure. And that's where I would like to see opportunities where we could find things to, in that more of a line item area, if there's opportunities to do that. If it's the community, I'm going to say it wrong, the community policing,
Crisis co-responder.
crisis co-responder, thank you.
Yeah.
To me, does that move somewhere that gets funded in a different way that, or is there opportunities that's part of that moves out of the general fund, or what that might look like? Just kind of from my general consensus that I would not be in favor of putting 2 mills on property taxes in addition to the other funding mechanisms that we've already put in place. I would rather the five of us look at some of our goals and reeling those back to keep those property taxes much more level.
And when will we need to make that decision? Is this as far as our?
By next week, we need to
next
determine
week.
what your maximum mill rate would be that you would not go over when you adopt a budget in September. So-
For next week, okay.
So that's when we have to provide the notification to Franklin County. Now, whatever you put in the notice, you cannot go over when you adopt a budget, but you can adopt something less than.
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind making sure that you don't hamstring yourself with something less than what you need, but making sure that it's realistic.
And that date is when? That's more like in August?
September
September
2nd is your public
For
hearing.
that time, okay. And so, yeah, I know there's no way we can get revenue neutral. That was kind of a rare opportunity for this budget this year to be able to do that. And I appreciate all the work you all did to make that happen. And so I know that's unrealistic this year, but I'm glad we did be able to do it one time in our lifetime. So that was good. But yeah, I'm kind of looking at option two myself as a possibility, but it will, I agree that we can't, we can place it and then we can not go over that. I get that. But whatever, it will require another public hearing for the revenue neutral rate.
You're required by state statute to provide a public hearing regardless of whether regardless of what you're going to
Okay,
adopt.
I was thinking we just only had to have that if we went over the revenue neutral.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
yes.
we are.
If you are going to go over the revenue neutral rate, you do have to hold a public hearing. Many legal opinions across, and including the state of Kansas, will tell you that you should elect to exceed the revenue neutral rate because you don't have control over the final assessed valuation. And that once that comes in October, which is after you've adopted your budget, it could push it over that revenue neutral rate. And then you will be required under state statute to provide a refund back to each of your property owners within the city.
We don't want to do that. I agree. And the revenue neutral, again, that was 42 mills. Was that, did I see that somewhere on your presentation? So I
Yes.
just kind of get an idea what that, where we're at. Okay,
42.2.
42.2. Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, so I don't see why there's any reason that we shouldn't publish 46.136. I mean, at that point, that's the max. We know, and I think we should make staff aware that we don't want to be there. We certainly want staff to look into, making as many cuts as possible to get us, down a mill or half a mill or whatever it could be. And then certainly having a discussion, with whatever staff comes back with. But I see nothing wrong with posting 46.136 at this point.
Yeah, I guess if that is what this is for, is what we are
Okay, that's what this is.
posting.
That's what this is for.
Okay.
Yes. So this would be your maximum rate that you intend to not go over when you adopt your final budget. This would show up in your publication or that notice to your residents that Franklin County will issue over the next 30 days, like in the month of August or late July. And it will include your public hearing date, your maximum mill rate that you may consider up to, and that you intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate, which is the 42 mills.
So when we come back on September 2nd, we'll have the public hearing. After the public hearing, we'll have a discussion about where we want the mill rate to be.
Yes.
I would anticipate that staff would come to us with a lower number than 46.136. That's what I would anticipate.
Yeah, I would, the more they can cut, we can't expect the homeowners to keep tightening their belt, and that's also less money they're gonna spend, so the sales tax revenues will go down because they don't have the money in their pocket to spend in town. So, I mean, if we expect them to tighten their belts, we need to tighten their belts, so I would, encourage all the city staff to try and do.
So is that it directing staff to, I guess, lessen the amount of money that's being put back for future purchases of vehicles? Is that one of the things that we direct staff to look at? I mean, that's kind of
Those
what
are-
Director Landis is asking. So,
Oh.
and I think we can have conversations with staff over the next month or so. Whether it's one direction or the other, of what you think maybe there could be cuts for, or we think what we'd like to see cuts on. But certainly that discussion will have September.
Yes. And to give you an example, so last year when we brought the budget to you, before we brought you a final budget, we had already cut over $400,000 off of out of operations before even bringing you the budget that we did. And then the request to lower it to the revenue neutral rate caused the need for another $90,000 reduction. So we have narrowed that spending consistently year over year over year just to try and make do. The lower amount of assessed valuation, while that's great for your community members because they'll be paying potentially less taxes because they may have had a lower increase to their property value, it also produces less value per mil for the operations to provide them services. And so now we're kind of in that balancing act between what's enough expenses to provide them the services that they expect and how much money do you have to do that with.
We had to do it a couple years ago. You know,
Mhm.
we tightened our belt. I would certainly direct staff. I don't want to make any employee benefits cuts, things like that. But certainly, if it's holding off on a cop car or two or a fire truck, which I know some of that stuff we've already discussed either. But even if it's just public works vehicles or things like that, if we're setting money aside for those, if we've got to lessen that a little bit more for the next couple years, that's what I'm more interested in than any employee benefits or cuts.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I'm
good
not in
feedback.
favor of that, but and not vehicles, whatever. If you see someplace, hey, we could cut this down a little, then
It's your budget.
Yeah.
You can say it.
We'll bring back some ideas. We'll bring back some draft budgets next week for those funds that might be less impacted by service cuts. Also, we'll have an opportunity for you to hear about the library budget next week. And then we'll have those couple of items that we need to tackle procedurally for that notice to Franklin County. And then again, like you mentioned, we can have further conversation about how do we get to that dollar amount that we need to be, where do we need to be before we have the final budget adoption in September.
Well, and I don't know if we have, as the mayor's mentioned before, I don't know if we've have any numbers coming in yet on TGT that we could utilize to pay off, use to fund some of these sources, which would obviously maybe pull off some of that funding that's necessary. So then it would help kind of bridge that gap for what we're looking for.
Yes, and we've had those conversations internally as well. So transient guest tax, it was never really intended to be offset your operational costs because if you offset them one year, the expectation is that that revenue stream continues year over year because the expense doesn't go away. So it's best used for one-time expenditures. For example, the continued cost for say we were to submit a CDBG application, there's some administrative costs that may be used for a facility that would draw people into town, and that would be a great use of that. Also to offset what we could contribute for what we've received so far towards your downtown master plan. Those are ways that you can use TGT that aren't impacting your property tax funds or service or those service funds. Also, you can use it to help offset some of your community support requests that have come in, and we have some ideas on how we could do that. In fact, in the budgets that we've put together so far, we've lessened the transfers from each of your four major funds into that community partner fund by the use of some TGT dollars. Right now, roughly, we're estimating $320,000 per year coming in for TGT, and some of that has been distributed in small contributions towards local attraction activities, promotional and marketing needs that have come to us, and then some additional things that we've identified that we'll need to use that for over time. But in no way has it been all expended, and so we can look to that. The future of the sales tax that may come in, keep in mind, we'll only receive 4 months of distribution, those receipts this year. So without those, there won't be a lot of actual new sales tax coming for quality of life. That would be available in 2027 for your active operating budget, at least not by January. So we'll have to be cautious on how we allocate any of those funds as well.
When you'd mentioned some of the things that, correct me if I'm wrong, previously came from economic development, you'd mentioned those kind of going to TGT. Is that kind of the plan on some of those things? You'd mentioned like the downtown master plan. Would that have previously come from like economic development fund?
It-
to pay for, or like something, for something like that? Would that come from like economic development, or typically where would that have like come from?
Great question. We haven't had a lot of those general type large planning initiatives where right now we're planning for that to be the other part paid from our capital improvement fund, not from economic development at this point, because there aren't enough funds in there. Remember, your economic development fund, those revenue streams only come in from the issuance of incentives, those types of fees that come back to us for incentives, and you pay for a lot of your design and engineering costs related to your development or your community development department out of that fund. We've funded some of the golf course operation costs. We've split that between economic development and general fund. So we've done some creative things with the funds that are available so far. But yes, we're always looking to those other sources that are sitting there and available to fund those, keeping in mind that you also have future projects to fund from capital improvement as well. And it does not have a designated revenue source. So the only thing that's been funding it to date has been your general fund. And so there's some investment income that's come into that fund. And so it doesn't have a great resource available either.
With this, just thinking how confusing revenue neutral, like for most people. I know when I started up here and was reading through everything and trying to figure out, revenue neutral mills, what all of it is there a way that we could, with Misty, get something out, that says, here is what this is. When you get your notice that says, here's what this means, and maybe kind of puts it in plain English, because if you read your valuation, I know even when I read it, it's like, here's your expected, it essentially phrases it, I would say, like, this is your expected budget, is what it sounds like.
Sure.
Probably the average person reading it. Is there a way we could kind of come up with some things to put out and say, here is what this really is? This is a ceiling we will not exceed. And I don't know what that may look like.
We can work on putting
Something
something
that we
like
can
that
do.
together.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. If you don't have any more questions today, we'll bring back a few new things to you next week, as well as the procedural things that we need to accomplish for the county notification. Then we'll continue working towards a good budget solution for September. Okay. Thank you so much.
That'll take us to item 12, comments by city manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, operational highlights, utilities, water distribution crews made significant progress on water line projects. On 19th Street, we installed new 12-inch and 8-inch water main and completed road crossing. At 4th and Poplar, we continued the water line replacement. And then electric distribution crews balanced ongoing pole replacements and tree trimming with preparations for the city's 4th of July fireworks display. Welcomed the new Community Development Director to our team, Vic Finch. So excited to have him here. Operational highlights for the police department, continued preparations for Teen Safety Academy with 17 registered, as well as DARE Camp. 2 officers started their field training last week, and then we recently hired Master Police Officer Reekers. First day was July 6th. Couple flyers for upcoming events. We have the street dance coming up on July 11th at 6 p.m. And then the Franklin County Fair. Encourage everybody to get out to that. Tentative items for next week. Disregard, that's not a study session. 2027 budget, review summary of proposed budget, revenue neutral rate, continued discussion, and then go ahead and set that public hearing date. Approval of the design for Lakeside Trail, amendment to no parking ordinance for South King Street. And then we have conditional use permits for 808 South Cypress and 816 South Cypress. So there's been a little confusion on how to get to the Proximity Park tab on the website. So we presented 3 different options for the community, along with putting it in the link in the news section of our website. So if you're subscribed to our news, you would have got a notification on that link, and it's front and center on our website. The easiest way to get there is ottawaks.gov/proximitypark. You can also go to ottawaks.gov, click on the government tab. Proximity Park sub-tab is right there on the drop down on the top left side of the page. Likewise, you can go straight to our transparency tab, and then over on the left side, you can select proximity park. So just want to make sure everybody has access to that information.
Thank you. We have any questions for the city manager? Well, I guess I will just reiterate, welcome to, there he was over there. I don't know if he's still hiding. Oh, he's gone. Okay. I saw him earlier that Vic was here. So welcome to the team. That's exciting. Heard he started Monday and is off and running. So
Yeah, first planning commission meeting tonight, so I
Yep.
imagine he's getting prepared for that. So
Yeah.
awesome stuff. Thank you.
Awesome.
That'll take us to item 13, comments by the governing body. Commissioner Skidmore.
Well, just thank you all for the firework display. It was a little bit delayed, I guess. I don't know what happened there, but nonetheless, it was worth the wait. So I just want to thank all involved in making that happen. It was a great display, and we'll see what happens next year. But don't want to spend that much money, I guess, next year. But nonetheless, it was well worth it. I thought it was good investment. I think everybody enjoyed it.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Leeden.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Skidmore said and thank Rudy Holden for his great fireworks display and all the help he had, and for Josh Blanco with the ORC and their grants crew out there helping with all the cleanup.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Crowley.
No comment.
And I will just say the same thing with 4th of July fireworks. I did not know that there was, the rec commission was out there for cleanup, because that's great. There was a lot to clean up, and so it was a great
lot
show.
to clean up, yeah, but it was a good show.
Yeah, so thankful for having that. It was a great 4th of July. I've not heard from Chief that it was not, so I think so, that it was a good 4th of July in town from them as well. No other comments. That'll take us to item 14, announcements. July 15th, we have our commission meeting here at 10 a.m. at City Hall. July 22nd, commission meeting here. Is that study session? Or no, pardon me, that's,
so there's five
there's 5. Okay, we're
Wednesdays in the
July.
month. So
Okay.
as of now, we don't have a particular study session topic identified. As we get further along in the budget process, we could always make that an opportunity to have a
Okay.
discussion at a different time of the day, even on the study session, or more of a work session on the budget if
Okay.
we chose to do so.
Okay, so with July 22nd will be a commission meeting at 4 p.m. and potentially July 29th study session at 4 p.m. here at City Hall. With nothing else to come before the commission, we are adjourned.